Good morning for those of you on the West Coast. Thank you for joining us today. This is part of the DCL Learning Series, a series of educational webinars. Today we're going to talk about increasing the findability of your content. DCL has developed a solution called Discovery Bridge that's targeted at helping professional societies and associations get their content and metadata delivered cleanly and efficiently to discovery and indexing partners. Adam, next slide, please. So today's agenda, we're going to do a couple of introductions. I'll introduce Leo Belchikov, my colleague and partner in this webinar. Myself, I'm Brian Trombley. We'll talk a little bit about why DCL Discovery Bridge. We'll talk about how it works. And we'll talk a little bit about how you might get started with DCL Discovery Bridge. We'll also have ample time at the end for Q&A. Adam, next slide, please. So I'm fortunate to have Leo Belchikov join me on this webinar. Leo's, I think this year is going on his 20th year at DCL. Leo's a senior project manager. He manages many large digitization efforts. Many of these efforts will involve millions of pages of information. He has a lot of expertise working with archival materials, and some of the projects we're working on with Discovery Bridge is really mining that archival material and helping get it out to discovery vendors and indexing partners. Next slide, please. So I'm Brian Trombley. Some of you may know me. I've been with DCL for about 6 years, but my experience with content and content technologies goes back 35 years. And I work in a wide range of industry verticals, but for DCL, my primary focus is on societies and associations. Next slide, Adam. So I just wanted to take a minute, and for those of you who aren't familiar with DCL, give you a little bit of information. We convert and organize content to create electronic documents, populate databases, publish to the web, and basically get your content ready for tomorrow's technology and tomorrow's delivery options. Next slide, please. So our services help you refine your document conversion strategy. We can help you identify document redundancy. We can extract and enrich metadata in your content and transform any legacy and future documents for real needs today and in the future. Essentially, any source format can go to any digital format, and we do that for many, many customers on an ongoing basis. Next slide. And you can see here's a short list of some of our customers, many that you probably recognize, but many, many more, and it would take a lot of slides to show them all. And Adam, one more slide, please. And as you can see, our services span all industries. We do a lot of work in government, aerospace, majority of work in scientific, technical, and medical publishing, manufacturing, and a lot of work in life sciences as well. So that's a quick introduction to Data Conversion Laboratory. Now I want to get into a bit about DCL Discovery Bridge. Next slide, Adam. So why DCL Discovery Bridge? And it boils down to a challenge that we've seen in our STM customers, mostly societies and associations, have been talking to us about, that they have a large set of content. They have a number of discovery vendor partners or indexing partners that they have to deliver content and metadata to, and they're usually not set up to do that in a very efficient way. Their metadata might be scattered across multiple repositories in the organization. Their metadata might be inconsistent, or it might be incomplete. You have multiple discovery partners needing different metadata feeds and content structures, and usually each metadata feed for these partners is somewhat different. So you can't just take everything you have and hand it off to one of these partners and expect them to easily and quickly digest that information and get it into their system. Also, we see that organizations have limited or lack of resources to get the content and metadata delivered in a timely fashion. Some of the very large organizations have one or more resources focused exclusively on this, on metadata and taxonomy and delivery of this information. But most organizations, this becomes a set of tasks for somebody who has other responsibilities within the organization. It's usually not their primary task. And so it can happen sometimes in a sort of haphazard manner. Adam, next slide, please. So, what do the vendors want? There's two things that these discovery vendor partners and indexing vendor partners need. They need metadata, and that needs to be good, clean metadata, and they need content. So in terms of the metadata feeds, as I mentioned before, can be significantly different from vendor to vendor. And even the same vendor might have a few product offerings that your information is going to be loaded to, and the metadata feeds for those specific products under a specific vendor might be different. The content, a lot of you are at this point in full text XML. Some of your legacy content might be PDF body with XML header, which might include citations, abstracts, references, and other metadata, or maybe you have both. It's not safe to assume that every discovery vendor partner or indexing partner it will accept full text XML. Some of them only want PDF body. They might not be set up to deal with your XML and render and deliver your XML on the discovery platform. Some may support both, and you may want to deliver both. What we see from time to time is there's a disconnect between what a society or association has signed up for or think they've signed up for, and what the vendor partner actually supports and will accept. So from time to time, we do get involved in the dialogue and get things sorted out between the society and the vendor partner to make sure everybody is set with the same expectations going forward. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick visual on DCL Discovery Bridge. You'll notice at the center the DCL Continuous Service Platform. Many of our large automation efforts we scale up through a set of services that we have running in a continuous manner, and then we feed those with data from our clients, and then we deliver data out the other side. So it's a hub and spoke model. And in this case, the content comes in as I'll call them content objects. It might be a journal article, it might be a book, it might be a chapter from a book of monographs, it might be a magazine article, could be a technical paper, virtually any type of content. And then, of course, the metadata associated with those, and that can be in various formats. You may even be maintaining metadata in multiple structures and formats, and we can deal with that directly, because what we do is we create sort of a master metadata file, and then from that we create the specific feeds for each discovery vendor. And on the right, you'll see a number of the common ones: Condex, Scopus, EBSCO, Ex Libris, so on and so forth. But virtually any vendor that provides discovery services or indexing, we can create a connector to and deliver the content to their structure and format. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to turn it over to Leo Belchikov, who will take us through the process and how it works, and then we'll spend a few minutes talking about what it takes to get started with this process. Leo?
Thank you, Brian. So the entire process contains of two stages. It's a discovery stage and a conversion delivery stage. During discovery stage, we contact with the client, with the discovery vendors, and gather all the necessary information. And after that, when information is gathered, then we do the actual conversion, and finally we do the delivery. During discovery project, DCL works with clients and discovery vendors on identifying what exactly metadata required on both sides. Also, DCL is figuring out what type of the content will be acceptable, preferable by each of discovery service vendors. As Brian mentioned, it could be a full text, metadata, full text PDFs, with or without metadata, different type of lists, comma, delimited files. Those lists can contain DOIs, ISBNs, ISSNs, with or without titles. Then DCL also works with vendors on identifying acceptable, preferable file format. Then we are discussing and agreeing with those discovery vendors in regards of pushing data to them over the FTP instead of allowing them to pull data from client's FTP. Obviously, this would require those discovery vendors to set up accounts and provide FTP information, folder structures, assign person or group of people on their side to deal with all this information. Pushing data will allow us and the client to have more control over what is getting sent and what is actually gets picked up by those discovery vendors. During the pooling process, client has no control over when and what was picked up by those discovery vendors. Then DCL discuss and agree on delivery folder structure, how data gets posted, some sort of archiving, zips, or maybe folder structure. It's all get discussed with the discovery vendors and with the clients. After all requirements are gathered from different vendors, final determination is made what will be delivered to each of those vendors. During this process, DCL is making assessment if delivered content can be or cannot be normalized across all vendors or group of vendors. This way, if changes need along the way, it make process much smoother. For tracking of what is going on with each unit, in this case, units, it's article, chapters, books, standards, etc. While it's getting through the process, DCL designed production control system, so-called PCS. This PCS system is available to track progress of work 24/7 through the entire conversion process and providing real-time detailed information on each document status. So this information is used to project delivery schedules, confirm that processes are working properly, and determine what changes should happen along the process. PCS is web-enabled and provides real-time secure information on the project progress. Depend on the requirements. Goal is to automate as much of the process as possible, from extraction of the content from client's FTP site to delivery of the final contents. The automated process ensures accuracy and consistency across large volumes of materials. Also, PCS is allowing create any type of reporting based on the client's needs. If this information is loaded into production control system, it can be sorted and assembled in any kind of reporting. Okay, all picked up material gets logged into production control system. Then it gets converted by DCL to intermediate format, and then that format will be taken as a next step to each of discovery vendors. Using DCL hub and spoke model, individual modules are customized rather than the new entire conversion filter built. This approach saves time and money on each project, not only for DCL, for the client as well. Conversion to DCL intermediate format is allowing to add additional discovery vendors with different requirements at any point of time to the process, and engineering only would need to be done on a portion from DCL intermediate format to the discovery vendor format. The initial chassis conversion of the client material to the DCL hub and spoke model, it's already done previously for the other vendors, and it doesn't need to be redone. During conversion, DCL also create appropriate links to PDFs or XML or HTML files that's located on the client system. After conversion, all files get packed per each discovery vendor requirements and delivered to their FTP sites. DCL developed automated packaging software which ensure that all files are properly named, collected, and prepared for shipment. This software organizes all materials per requirements and proper naming convention. And also, this software performs a series of checks to ensure that all needed components are included. Delivery schedule is based on the client's requirement and how often discovery servers vendors can accept the data. It can be daily, it can be weekly, it can be bi-weekly. For some of the clients, we do daily deliveries. Our system automatically goes to the client FTP. It checks if any new data was posted there. If it is, then it grabs this data, convert, and deliver to all discovery vendors. And all this done during automated process. And on this, I conclude my part. Brian?
Thanks, Leo. That was a great description, very detailed. I just want to stress that once we go through the process with you of discovery and configuring and testing, and that's the heavy lifting, and at that point, the burden of having to deal with this is really off of your plate. If you just let us know where the content and the metadata is going to be and how often you want us to pick it up, we do all the rest, all the heavy lifting. And with the automated process, it ensures the consistency in what's being sent to the discovery vendor, so it should fall into their process and get up on their sites very quickly. One of the struggles that some association societies have had is that they send inconsistent or erroneous metadata content, and then that gets set aside, and at some point the publisher is saying, where's my content? And the vendor's saying, oh, well, it wasn't structured correctly. We were going to call you about that. Now, with the DCL service, everything will be structured exactly as the vendor expects, and the process should go smooth. Your content should get up and be findable in a much quicker fashion. Adam, next slide, please. So there's a few things that we would need to really have any serious dialogue with you, our customers, on how we'd set this up. So we would need to see a list of the content types you have and some samples of all of those content types, along with the metadata associated with each. And knowing where that metadata lives, is it one source or multiple? Is it in one format or multiple formats? It doesn't matter to us. We can aggregate all of the metadata into a singular source. In the case of that intermediate format that Leo mentioned, we maintain it in an XML database repository. But if you're tracking it in, say, a spreadsheet, and maybe you have a CVS feed from a database, and those two files need to be married up and associated with a particular piece of content. That's something that we can do in the whole engineering and automation phase. We'd also need a list, obviously, of the discovery and indexing vendors that you deliver to. At some point, we would need contact information as we get closer to finalizing your needs and making sure that we've covered everything in the scope of the effort in the proposal. And then we'd need to know what schedule you'd like to deliver against. And as Leo mentioned, it could be daily, it could be weekly, bi-weekly, it could be any time frame that you need your content delivered. And maybe you have different content. Maybe you have standards documents and technical papers that you want to get up as soon as they're ready. You know, that can be handled on an ad hoc basis. And then maybe you have some journal issues. Maybe a journal's a monthly issue or a bi-monthly issue. So of course, when the publishing cycle completes and the content's ready, that's when we go in and grab that content. Leo also mentioned PCS, our production control system, which logs and tracks everything. He mentioned the ability to have reports out of that system. So we'd want to discuss with you what levels of reporting you might want to receive back after content's been processed and delivered. Next slide, please. So that really is DCL Discovery Bridge in a nutshell. I know this was brief. It is a pretty straightforward process. It takes a little bit to get up and running, but once it's up and running, it's a very smooth process. It saves organizations a lot of time and effort in terms of preparing to deliver content and metadata to discovery vendors, and it also ensures that your content gets there quickly and accurately and is findable as quickly as possible. So with that, I'd like to open it up to questions and answers, if there are any.
Hey, Brian, it's Adam. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Brian, I don't know how long you want to wait. We have no questions at this time.
Okay, well, I can wait a couple minutes. I have plenty of time. If anybody, there's still quite a few of you on the line. If anybody has a question. Okay, well, thank you. If you do come up with questions, please feel free to reach out to either Leo or myself. Our contact information is on this last slide. And we can wait another minute to see if anybody wants to ask a question. I guess not. Well, thank you all for joining. Look forward to hearing from some of you if there's interest in DCL Discovery Bridge. And thank you very much.
Thank you.